All right, so here's today's zero DTE trade. And today it was just sort of a fiasco, man. It was like a Three Stooges act. And here's the Three Stooges as mobsters. And the reason why they're mobsters is because there's this great mobster video that I have in today's video that I want you to check out. It's this video by this really great YouTube channel out there. And it's like a real mobster telling real mobster stories. So definitely check that out. But here's what happened today. So I got into my first trade, as I always do, my zero DTE trade for the day. And I wasn't paying attention. I had some things going on around here. I had the gardener show up. I had kids that were fighting, trying to get out to school, and I got distracted and I wasn't in front of my screen. And by the time I got back to my screen, it was going down, and it was like right at or just barely past my exit stop limit, which is 2 times my profit target. So I'm always trying to get 50 bucks on these. And if it hits like about $100, $110, that's where I get out at. And when I walked back into the room and looked at the screen, it was like at 110-ish, right in that area. So I scrambled to get out of that one, and I didn't get a very good fill. And so I lost on that first trade. But I got a signal pretty much right away. Another signal came in. So I took that one. I took the second signal, and that was a winner. So I lost the first one. I won the second one. And then a third signal came in. So I took that third signal, and when the dust settled, somehow the recording of the first 2 was gone. It was disappeared. I don't know what in the heck happened to that thing. I mean, I'm sure that it was recording, but maybe I pressed the wrong button. I didn't save it. Regardless, so there's no recording today of the first 2, but you can see you'll see the final Excel sheet, but you'll also see like the trades. So here they are. So you can see the first one. This one was opened at about 656. So I got into the first one at 90. And then all that stuff happened, and I was Three Stooging it with my kids and the gardener and everybody else. I came back, and I finally got out of that one at 235. And then I immediately got into the second trade, got in at 80. And then this middle trade here, that's just disregard that. That's a separate trade. That's a different test thing that I have running. But here's the exit for the zero DTE trade, the second one. So I made 50 bucks. So that was a winner. First one was a loser. Second one was a winner. And then there's the third one, which the recording did take. So somehow in those first 2 ones, the recording got lost. But you can see all the trades there, and you can see number 3, which I'm calling the Three Stooges mobster trade because of my Three Stoogesness. But also while the third trade's on, I pull up this video from this YouTube channel, this great YouTube channel, where this mobster is telling real life mobster stories, and it's really great. So check that out, and then you'll see at the end the finals for the day. So that's just sort of a pre-cap, not a recap, but a pre-cap as to today's Three Stoogeness and fiasco. All right, so here we go. So this is trade 3, and then at the end of that, you'll see me fill out the Excel sheet for all 3 trades, and you'll see where we wound up. All right, here it goes. All right, so here we are, potentially round 3 coming up, triple dip. We have a potential triple dip signal kind of flickering on and off, so I just want to get ready just in case this thing actually goes official here. So our first trade was a loser. Second trade was a winner. So we've already had two trades this morning, and it's like we've only been open for an hour and a half. So that's pretty active day, huh? Hey, so let's see if we get this third one coming in. Okay, we're getting close here. We're getting close. Looks like we have it. I'm just going to get 100 bucks on this one. Come on, let's try to get 100. Oh, it's at 90. All right, let's say 95 then. Okay, we have a working order here at 95. We have this little test trade here, just kind of boiling back there on the back burner in my lab, my options trading lab. So that's just this is an experimental trade that I wanted to put on live today, just to see what happens with certain things that I have this thing cooking. May have something, may not. This will help tell us. But this one here is, let's see, this is the trade we're trying to get in right now. Trying to get 95 for it. We should be able to get it, I think. Maybe we'll go to 90. It's slipping away. It's slipping away from us. Let's see if I go to 90, if I can catch it. Is it too late? Did I fart around too long? Got it. Okay, so we're in that one at 90. So this is our triple dip. This is our third trade of the day. So let me lock that in there. Let me set up my exit order or my profit target taken order. So we say analyze opposite trade. This will be 40. Right? Yeah, buy it back at 40 gives us our $50. Create duplicate order. Okay, so we got that working. There's our exit order, and that's it. That's all she wrote. No, we're off and running on this one. So let's just pull up our monitor screen here and see how this one does. All right, so we're off and running on that. The room is closed now. So, there's this really great YouTube channel that I love. I'm going to pull up. It's called, what's it called? It's called, the soft white, I think it's called Soft White Underbelly. It's this, I think he's like a famous photographer, like a model photographer from back in the 80s, 90s, who does these interviews with like a whole variety of different type of people, like mobsters. Well, you'll see criminals. It's just really interesting. A lot of people that are on the street, living on the street. Here it is. It's called Soft White Underbelly. Let me bring it in here. And these interviews are really great. He's a great photographer. You can tell, like, he has all these black and white photos. He does a photo of each subject that he interviews, and then he has like an interview, like a 15-minute to like an hour interview with different ones. His name is Mark, I think. But there's some really great ones in here. I want to put this one on. It was like a mobster. Let's see if I can. He had these amazing stories. Here he is. This guy, mafia mob hitman Frank Kaluta. So he just sits there and tells, like, this guy just sits there and gets interviewed.
Frank, you grew up in Chicago.
That's correct. Crazy stories.
And,
this is like the real deal.
You had involvement with the Chicago mob, which was called the Outfit. Chicago
Yeah,
Outfit.
we refer to it as the Outfit.
Yeah. And your father had a similar kind of path as you, right?
My father, he never wanted to be a gangster. He was a thief. He was a killer. He was all of them things, but he never wanted to be controlled by any organization back then. It would have been the Syndicate or the Outfit.
Right. And tell me about your childhood. You grew up with your mom and dad.
Yeah, I grew up. I had a sister. She was 5 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was 9 months pregnant when my father died. So my brother never got to meet his father.
Oh, wow.
And she was a very good mother. At least, I know everybody thinks their mother's the best. Well, I feel as though my mother was the best.
Yeah.
Woman visited me every day, every Sunday in jail for as many years as I did, since I was a kid.
That's great. Tell me about your father.
My father was, he was not a bank robber, but he would do it, I guess. He did a lot of robberies and burglaries. He was more or less a good wheelman, getaway driver. That's what his reputation was. How I knew all of this stuff was because of relatives used to tell me as I was growing up, and his friends, my father's friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that stuff. I just knew my father, when I was a kid, had a violent temper, and he was very providing for the house. Mm-hmm. Very good. He hollered at my mother a lot. He was very jealous, but very much in love. Mm-hmm. And I love my father. To this day, I still love him.
He's Italian. That explains a lot of it, right?
He died in an automobile accident. He was killed. He was being pursued by the police because he had, back then they used to call them gas stamps, rationing stamps. And he had a carload of them. He just had been sentenced to 8 years in Des Moines, Iowa, because he got caught out there. I think he was set up. So he was out on some type of an appeal bond, and he had more of these stamps in his car. And he took off, and he got killed in the car accident.
Hmm. And there's a connection between your father and, so you met Tony Spalato, who is the infamous Chicago mobster, when you guys were kids, right?
I guess Tony Splatro and myself met at a very young age. I'm assuming it was about 12 years old or maybe 11, somewhere around there. It's been a long time, but it was around there. And my mother finally sent me out. She says, you got to start, go make money. Here's a shoebox. Make a shoebox. So I made a shoebox, shoe shine box. Because I was stealing out of paper bags before then. I was climbing up the pole and reaching in the bag, grabbing nickels out and running. Finally, the guy started chasing me.
That's how they sold newspapers back then.
Newspapers,
Yeah.
yeah, there were newspapers. It was on your honor. You drop a nickel in and take a paper out. Well, I dropped my hand in and took all the money out.
Yeah.
So I, finally start chasing me. So that's when I start shining shoes. And the main street in Chicago that I hung on and been up and down all my life is a street called Grand Avenue. So I'm on one side of the street.
Order filled.
Yelling at me. You're in my territory. Get out of here. And I look across the street and I see a guy that's a little shorter than me. So he starts walking towards me. I walk towards him. He says to me, this is my territory. You need to get out of here or I'll bust your head. And I look up at the street sign and I said, I don't see your name. What's your name? And he says, Splatro. I said, I don't see your name on that street sign. And I'll be back here tomorrow. And he said, well, when I come back tomorrow, I'm busting your head. I said, I'll be back. So the next day I come back, for every day for a week or two. And I didn't see this little guy with this bad attitude. Then one day I heard, hey, because he had asked me my name when we were arguing on the street. He said, what's your name? And I told him, Collada, Frank Collada. So when I seen him after a week or two, he yelled to me again and we met in the street. In the middle, it was streetcars then, so we stood by the tracks. And he said, I gotta ask you a question. What was your father's first name? And I said, why? He said, I just need to ask you and I'll tell you why. I said, it was Joe, or Joseph. He said, well, you and I are gonna be friends the rest of our lives. And I said, why? What's the reason for that? And he said, my father overheard me talking with my brothers about a guy I was having a problem with, shining shoes in my territory. When he heard the name Collada, he says, he called me in the room and he said, find out if that boy's name is that boy's father's name is Joe. He said, because if it is, you and him gotta be the best friends from now on, because his father saved my life. And that's what Tony told me in the conversation. And I said, then I come to find out what took place and how my father saved Tony's father's life. Tony's father's name was Patsy. Tony's father had a restaurant on Grand and Ogden. We refer to that as the old neighborhood. It's up northwest. So it was called Patsy's Restaurant. And he was famous for his sandwiches, his meatball sandwiches. What I come to find out is my father went in there like everybody else around that area to get food and spend money there. Patsy told him one day, he said, hey, Joe, I'm having a lot of problems with these grease balls. My father, grease balls back then meant the black can. That was the only thing around then. There was no Al Capone, no Tony Accaro. So my father said, well, what are they doing to you, Patsy? And he said, well, they come in, they collect. They want to collect from me every week. Taxes, to stay in business.
Order filled.
He said, I can't afford it. He said, I'm just a little businessman here. My father said, what day they come in?
Order filled.
And I guess he told him the day. My father says, I'll be here that day before they get here. In your back, the kitchen. Do you usually bring them in the kitchen when you give them money? He said, yeah. So my brother says, all right, so the following, whatever the day was.
Stick with me for 30 seconds and I'll show you the trading strategies that allowed me to quit my full-time job 2 years ago and design a life.
He came in with two of his guys and they waited in the kitchen. So when this guy come to collect money from Patsy brought him into the kitchen.
Order filled.
Well, they
Order filled.
In the kitchen, my father and his other two friends, and they killed him. Patsy wasn't in the kitchen when they killed him. Patsy walked out of the kitchen. And then I don't know how they disposed of his body, but that's what happened to this guy. Well, the word got back to their boss. The old grease fellow used to walk up and down the streets putting black cans on doors. And he wanted to know who these guys were, and they was afraid to go by Patsy's because he didn't know if Patsy had any more guys waiting for him. So he started continuing his operation around Grand and Ogden by putting black can, they'd have a black ink can put on people's doors, paper, and people would know what that meant. So happened to be one day my mother come home and there was one on our door. And she looked at it, she didn't know what the hell it meant. So when my father came home, she said, Joe, somebody left this thing on the door. Well, he went crazy. And and then he found out where this guy went for the boss. But it happened to be his underboss, the boss's underboss, goes for a haircut. And he caught him in the barbershop and he killed him in the barbershop. Then he thought to himself, this is what I was told. You got to get the head of this guy, the head of the organization. So by this time, the head of that organization, the Black Hand, went in hiding. And he took his wife with him. And they found out that he was in a motel with his wife. They kicked down a door and they killed him in bed in front of his wife. They didn't hurt his wife. That was the end of the Black Hand. So then, soon after that, the outfit became, Al Capone and these guys. And they wanted my father to be involved. And he didn't want to be involved. He didn't want nothing to do with any type of organization. So that was basically the story of my father.
That's a great story. So that paved the way for the mob in Chicago, really.
Oh yeah, through all Chicago. See, there's a street in Chicago, and most of these guys that were connected to Al Capone lived on that street in Chicago. It was called Taylor Street. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's called the 42 gang come out of. That means there was 42 bosses, 42 guys that were made men. They come out of that area. Sam Giancana, Teets, Battaglia, I could go on and on, but I'm not, it's too long. And they all come out of that neighborhood. All old guys. Right now they've been over 100 and some years old. And Tony Arcardo, as a matter of fact, lived in the house in front of our house when I was a little child, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I didn't know that. He was probably nobody back then. I like Sam Giancana. I would always refer to him as a man's man.
So you've had interactions with so many big and powerful mobsters. From
I could go on and on to the interaction I've had with mobsters. I could be here a week, and I'm not going to be here a week.
Just pick 2 or 3 that you think are particularly.
Order filled.
Lucky Phil, I've Jack Cerrone, Willie Messina.
But tell me about some of the, like one or two of these individuals' personalities.
Personalities.
What made them unique and interesting?
Well, they were all. Each one of them were unique in their own way. They all had tempers. Some of them were narcissistic, and some of them were just the nicest guys in the world. So you had to be careful how you treated each individual. You'd know what they were before you even got to meet them. So if you were half smart, you'd know how to handle them, on a speaking arrangement.
Yeah.
Now, Milwaukee Phil, I always felt as though he growled when he talked. Sam DiStefano was a psychopath. I worked for him, too. I've seen him in action. Definitely out of his mind. Teets was all right. Teets was wild, too. Battaglia. James Tortorella, Turk. Like Turk. I used to steal with Turk. Turk became a boss, too. Joe Ferriola. We call him Joe Nago. Great guy. But you cross these guys, you're going to get fucking whacked.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, you were going to get whacked. Like I said, I could go on all day. I met Tony Arcaro 2 times. I didn't talk to him on a level where he would be like my going buddy, hey buddy, I knew that. I respected this guy so much. Anything he'd done because he was a gentleman. He never talked down to people. He knew who I was when I was 18 years old. When I was 18 years old, this guy knew who I was. Shocked me. But that's how the word travels in that circle. When they know a guy's a tough guy or he's capable, they watch you. And one time Tony Ricardo told me, "Hey kid, I know who you are." And I looked at him. Was in a pancake house. And I said, "Who are you, sir?" He said, "My name is Anthony Ricardo." And I said, "Oh my God, it's a pleasure to meet you." I was like shocked, because I heard about him. And at that particular time, Paul Rica was the boss of the outfit. All right? Paul Rica was the boss for about 10 years. So he says to me, "I know all about you, Frankie." He said, "You got a bad temper." He says, "You could go a long way." He says, "if you control your temper." Just some friendly advice. And by the way, who are your friends? He wanted to know who my friends were next to me. So I told him, and the guy said, "Hello, Mr. Ricardo." And then the next time I had to stop, Willie Messina used to work for with Ricardo. He used to do things for Ricardo's house. Ricardo had a monkey. Tony Ricardo had a monkey. So poor Willie Messina was put in charge of the monkey. Because the monkey would tear up the basement.
Yeah, it's not full
So one time I had to stop there and pick up something from Willie. And Willie was saying, "This fucking monkeys, I'd kill him." He said, "if I could get away with it." And then Tony Ricardo come home. And he looked at me and he waved. And I said, "Hello, Mr. Ricardo." "Always Mr. Ricardo." He said, "How's my monkey doing, Willie?" Willie will shake his head like that. And I left. I said, "I gotta get out of here." But yeah, I know. That's the only 2 times I talked to the man.
Tell me about Larry Newman, who was somebody you also worked with.
Larry Newman. Strange that you say that. They talk about a lot of vicious guys in the outfit, and there were, like La Petrio, his brother Jimmy. Vicious, crazy bastard. Scary guy. I think Larry Newman was worse than any one of the worst they had in the outfit. He was a Jewish guy. I met him in a penitentiary, Stateville Penitentiary. He was doing a $1.25. That's 125 years for a triple murder. He did 11 and a half years on it. His father paid off the parole board. His father was very wealthy. So that's where I met Lefty. We worked in an assignment together, and they call it detention hospital. They refer to us guys as the goon squad, because we would do what the guards didn't have the balls to do. Get crazy people out of the cells and bring them to this detention hospital where all the psychos were. And that's who we watched. There was 8 of us. So we controlled that floor, that hospital unit, with the psychos. And that's where I met him, and then Larry joined me in later years in Vegas.
But he was a killer that took it
He was
to another
what?
level. He was a killer, but he took it to another level, right?
I refer to Larry Newman as a serial killer.
Yeah.
He enjoyed killing. It didn't make a difference how he killed you. If he had to cut you up in pieces to get rid of you, he could do that. The guy he's just an evil man. He was an evil man. He died in the penitentiary. He went back I put him back in the penitentiary because I testified him on a murder he committed, which he shouldn't have committed.
So eventually you ended up doing some, like you started off with some robberies, like bank and Brinks trucks and stuff
Who
like
was
that. You did. You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got to start somewhere, and I started out.
But you started out big. These were big.
I got big quick. I had a car I bought with stocks and bonds that my father left. So it was an Oldsmobile, nice, 98. It was 55 or so, I don't know what it was. But it was an older car, it wasn't brand new. Real old. So I was in the alley doing something by my house in Chicago, doing something, and this guy come walking down the alley. He had a fedora on like this, he was tall and skinny. We referred to him in later years as Mopey Jesus. That's what we named him, Mopey Jesus. His name was Bob Sprodak. And he stopped and he's talking to me, and he's got a wad of money, showing me his money. I said, "Where you get all that money?" And he said, "You want to make money like me? I'd show you." He says, I need a guy with a car. He says, I said, what do you do? He says, I stick up taverns. Stick up taverns, what did I know? Stick up taverns? Yeah. He says, I'm going to start doing banks. I said, I don't want to do banks. He said, you want to come with me? I said, I'll give it a try. But I wear these glasses. I had thick glasses now. He said, take them off. I said, I don't know. The places are dark at night. I'll give it a shot. So I met him, and we went on our first tavern heist. It was a fucking nightmare. It was so dark in there I couldn't see. He went in there and he blew off the bottles off the black bar, off the back end of the bar. Everybody hit the ground like they were supposed to. I'm yelling, it's dark, I can't see in there. I'm yelling to this image. It was a top coat and a hat. Get down, and I'm yelling, get down. And Bob said, who are you yelling at? And Jagoff don't want to lay down over there. Bob's laughing. He goes over and hits it. It was a coat rack.
Oh,
and the hat was set on there with a top coat. And it's dark in there. I'm telling you, I couldn't see it.
You just saw some of that.
Because I had bad vision.
Yeah.
So we laughed all the way to the car, and he said, I told him, if you ever tell anybody about this, I'll get you. I told him. And then from there, I didn't go with him too often because he was a little wild. And then I hooked up with two other guys, Richard Gorman and Paulie Shiro. And we start, and Gino Chiappetta. And we did a couple taverns. One was in Cicero, should have never went there, had a shootout. And it was a bad shootout. We got away, but one of the bullets went through the windshield and parted my partner's hair, Gino Chiappetta. Left the part down the center of his hair, legitimate. So he said, that's it. But on the way, we caught a rumble from the cops. Somewhere when we got closer to Chicago, we had changed the license plates and everything. And it became a shootout in the car, shooting back and forth. We got away. But in that shootout, we passed, Tony Splatcher was on a street, a side street where he lived. And he was in the car talking to a couple of his buddies. And we got in back of him because he was blocking the street and we were being chased. And, I started blowing the horn, move out of the fucking way, we're yelling. I didn't know Tony was in the car. So Tony knew something was up, and he told him, move over there. These guys are, whoever they are, they're being chased. They pull over, we hit the car, drew a couple of shots, got away. Got rid of the guns and everything. The car, seen Tony the following day. Was that you? I said, yeah. He said, what? I said, we stuck up some tavern in Cicero. He says, there's an easier way to make money. I said, oh, he's a bank rob. I said, I ain't sticking up no banks. No, you don't stick up no banks. He said, you grab the carrier. He said, they go in and they get money, and then they bring it back to the business. He said, I'm doing it right now with Turk. He was with Tortorella back then. That's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So he says, you could go with us now and then. I said, all right. So I got my two partners, the guys I mentioned previously. Not Gino, Paulie and Richard Gorman. Yeah. So we just went on the bank rob and grabbed a few tellers. People are creatures of habit. They do the same damn thing every day if they're, they go to the same stores, they go to the same banks, they go to the same businesses. So we followed them. They were very easy. A couple of cars, two guys, stick them up in the car. We used to grab them right on the street walking out of the bank. 20,000, 15,000. It's a lot of money back then, a lot of money. Right. Now it's like $20, 20,000, right? Mm-hmm. So we grabbed these people. So then we were getting bigger and bigger, making bigger and bigger money. But we wanted to stop doing them bank robberies because they would start laying traps for you. So we did one in Wisconsin. That was the last one. And then that's it, we won't do no more. Because the cops will wait for you and eventually they're gonna catch you. They didn't have all them cameras like they got now. So then we started doing burglaries, house burglaries, but there was all tips. Everything we got was inside information. And then I went to jail. Shit thing I went to jail for. When I got out of jail, I went in 1959, I believe. I got out in 60. It was only a year. It was in a house of corrections. I had a felony reduced to a misdemeanor. That's why 2 times I had them reduced. Money. You could always pay off the judges. So I get out, Tony visits me. You know, hey, how you doing? I did like 10 months on it. And he says, I got a good score for you and Dickie, Richard Gorman. He says, the jeweler building. I said, well, where's that? He said, the Moeller building, downtown on Wabash Street. I know, we're gonna rob that joint. I said, that's the whole building's full of jewelers, you know. They got crash gates that come down, everything. If the alarm goes off, you ain't getting out of there. So he says, there's gonna be a New York jeweler gonna be in there. You and Richard get a room at the Palmer House. Somebody will call you when that jeweler is that New York jeweler is with the 2 jewelers that own the jewelry company there. It sounded easy enough. So Richard and I, a couple of times we did it. We parked our work car in Forest Park, jumped the L, and it'd take you right down the freeway, and we go in Marshall Fields in the basement. We walk up the stairs, go over to the Palmer House, which was then. We get a room. We'd lay in the room until the phone rang. When the phone rang, and the guy'd say, well, your package didn't come, Mr. Sterling. That means the jeweler wasn't there. So I think the second or third time we get that call and said, your package has arrived. So we put our top coats on, our fedoras, put the 45s in the briefcase, went across the street because the Moeller building was right across the street from the L, which was in the basement, you know, a subway, I should say. So we took the elevator up to the 3rd floor, walked 2 flights up, took the elevator up another flight, then walked up another flight, in case they had any cameras. Then we walked into it was like a reception area. And we stood side by side. And I think he knocked on the door, and the people, the guy looked up. He showed a card, investigating. We understand do you have a problem over here? And the guy opened up the door. So he opened up the door, we run in. There was 2 brothers, jewelers. They were Jewish guys, Zimmerman, I think their name was, I'm not sure. And the New York jeweler. So we got them, we taped them up, and I noticed the windows were up, blinds. So I closed the blinds and I go to the safe. Well, he's going through their pockets. There's a bag, a pouch this big. He got it. He said, I got it. So I says, come here. He comes over. I said, fucking safe's open. There's nothing in the safe. He went like that. He picked up on it before I did. It was an inside job. The jewelers cleaned out the safe. When he seen the safe, the kid was sharp, Dickie. Rich, I call him Dickie all the time. I said, oh, these motherfuckers. I went like that. So I got all his shit. And I handed it to Dickie, and he says, I'm gonna go down, and I'm gonna wait by the L for you. I waited 5-10 minutes with these guys in the room. Now, when I was sure he was out of the building, then I went down. Same routine. Elevator, or I walked 2 flights down, elevator, walk the flight, elevator, all right? Because them gates come down. These guys scream robbery, boom, the gates come down, you ain't going nowhere. So I go down, I meet him at the subway, we jump on the L, boom, we go to Forest Park. We go to Manheim Road where Tony Splotcher was in a motel room with this guy Mike waiting for us to come back with the goods. Because he was gonna pay us. We hand him the stuff. But on the way there, of course we're checking out the pouch, and they're all in loose diamonds in the wax paper. Dickie says, man, we're getting less money than we should. He says, look at this. And I look at this, holy fuck. A lot of loose diamonds. I mean, you're taking a pouch this big full of diamonds. And I don't want to name how much money we got because I'm embarrassed. But I trusted my friend Tony, right? wind up as Tony and Mike and the outfit made most of the money. So we got rid of it. We went back. Dickie went his place. I went to the lounge in Elmwood Park. There was a lounge. And we're all watching the news, guys, and it comes over the air. Comes over the air right after the robbery now. It's a matter of 2 hours. Big, they call it $500,000 robbery. That's the biggest robbery in Chicago history at the time. And I look, and I go, and I don't say nothing. Everybody's going, man, them guys really got lucky. I wonder who they were. I'm sitting right with, you guys never know it was me, right? 3 days later, I get pulled over by the detectives. They says, Hanhart wants to talk to you. Hanhart was in charge of the robbery unit. I said, what the fuck does he want with me, you know? So I go downtown, I go to, what was the name? It was a police station, I can't even think of the name of it now. Shakespeare. So I go there and I go up to his office. They take the cuffs off. He says, you want some coffee or a donut? Seriously. And I goes, no, what do you want? What's up? He said, I'd never fucking believe in the millionaires. What are you talking about? I said, what are you holding me here for? He said, you fucking did that robbery, the Mueller building. And I fucking said, how does this guy know that? I only been out of jail a week. I didn't even know he knew I was out of jail. I said, what are you talking about? I said, what Mueller building? What robbery? He said, I know. You've done that fucking robbery. He said, you and Dickie Gorman. I said, you got the wrong information. He said, I can't prove it. He said, I just want you to know. And he said, you could go. I didn't know at that time that Hanhart was already under control by the Chicago outfit. So one of them loose-mouthed guys had probably told his fucking cop. So you see what I mean? They loose lips sink ships. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened.
Wow.
That was a big one. Then I did Brinks trucks and all of that shit.
What was the one that you're famous for down in Calumet City, Indiana?
The bank vault?
Yeah, the bank vault.
Yeah. I'm a kid, still a very young kid in the 50s. Tony comes to me and he says, listen, I got a score. He says, with 3 guys that you don't know, but I know. And Dickie and you will be together. He says, we're going to do it together. There's going to be 6 of us. He said, bank score. I said, here we go with the banks again. He said, no, we're gonna go into the vault. I said, it's a new experience. I said, all right. So I meet one of the guys that was there. His name was Joe Lombardo. Not be known to me that in later years Joe Lombardo would become our boss. He was just right then and there. Joe was working he worked at crap games, gambling in Chicago. And he's got his 2 friends. I don't even know who they are. Do I even know what their fucking names are? I don't even know. I didn't care. So we all take a ride, the 6 of us. We go to Calumet City. And I see the bank, and then I see an empty building next to it, right up to it. They got 2 foundations. He said, that building's empty. We go through the foundation, double foundation, which would make it that big. I said, well, we'll be digging a week over there. I said, to get through that. He said, well, we're getting the empty building. We go down the basement. So we figured it out. We go through the foundations. Then we knew how many. We walked off the footage from one foundation to the bank vault, because the bank had a basement too. So we walked it off and come right up underneath the vault. We get underneath the vault the day of the robbery. Not that day, the day of the robbery. We come equipped with 2 cars, radios, and all the tools. We knew we couldn't smoke, we couldn't eat, and we couldn't piss. Because DNA, we thought they could get that stuff. We thought of that stuff before they made it known. So we did all of that, and it was a lot of work. I mean, the hard part was going through the floor from the basement.
You got concrete, you got rebar?
With rebar. And we had torches and tanks. Very, very difficult. And finally, we get up in there. We had a little ladder with us, and we got up in there.
How many hours did this take?
Full day. a full day to go through both of them, exhausted. We were dirty and exhausted. By the time we got in there, and we didn't have the up-to-date tools to open up the boxes because there's double locks, but we managed to open them. We used the crowbars and hammers and chisels and sludges. We popped them open. We went for the bigger boxes, Anything that was paper, useless to us, we left it there. We took the jewelry and cash. And at the end of the day, we wound up with $750,000 cash, and valued at probably $1 million in jewelry. But you don't get that. You get a quarter of it, you know, whatever the price is on jewelry. So then I come to find out the outfit gets 20%. I said, what the fuck? One of the guys didn't want to pay. I don't know what happened to him, but we all paid 20%. So I wind up with 50G. 50G at that age, I was a millionaire.
Yeah.
It took us a day to count the money. We brought it up to this guy's house, the one that didn't want to give 20%. And it was like a full-size bed. Now remember, we got singles, $5 bills, 20s, 100s. And we were putting them in $1,000 wrappers. They covered the bed a foot high. That's how money was on that bed, a foot high.
Wow.
Our hands were totally green from counting the money. Totally green, the ink. And then we took our ends out and we left out of there. The guy had his windows blocked off, boarded up. His wife couldn't go in the room. He put a padlock on the door. And it was a good feeling. I mean, that kind of, I immediately went and bought a new car. I bought new cars every time I did something. I had a reputation as a car buff. People would say, your ashtray's full of cigarettes, you'll sell it tomorrow. I buy cars, 3-4 cars a year, easy. You know, I like cars, you know, I still like them, as you could see.
Yeah. So you never got caught for that?
Never I what?
You never did time for that? You never got caught?
No. I got the one Brinks truck that I robbed. About 5 or 6 years later, a guy rolled in the case, became a witness at a trial.
So you got away with it except for that?
Oh, I spent the money. It was $366,000.
These are big
scores.
Big scores in that era, right?
Then another one I did by myself, Brinks truck. And I didn't have to kick in any money.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you have to give away 20%?
But I did give the guy 20% that give me the tip. What he did was, this guy's grandfather or uncle, I forgot, worked at this warehouse where all these armored car trucks would pull in at the end of the day. A lot of them don't have enough time to go to the bank and drop the money that they collected all day, so they pull it in the garage, the truck, and they'd hang the keys up on a pegboard. And then the old man, there was a janitor in there, it was the kid's grandfather or uncle, sweeping. He'd see, he'd know what was going on, wash the trucks. So the kid told me, he said, my grandfather was. Tell him, I said, to look for a 2-man truck. It's got to be a 2-man truck because they're open all the way through. And if he sees one, tell him to get the key. Tell him, I want the key, I want the number of the truck. And when he spots it, gets it all settled where he knows he's got it, I'll meet him that night. I'll go by the side door of the building. I'll knock on the door 3 times, tap on the door 3 times. He can hand me the key. He'll hand me the key and I'll give it to him back in an hour. So I did it. He handed me the key and I made a wax impression of it. And I had a key gun in the car. I put some stuff in there to make it hard. And I made a key. I copied a key.
Yeah.
So then I went back and I gave him the original key back. I knocked on the door, he opened up a little hand. I never seen this hand thing. So for about a week straight, I followed that truck. Every morning they left there to see if it kept on going to the last stop, and it was in Schaumburg. And they'd stop their last stop and they go have dinner. They go in there, two of them cops. Brinks drivers. So I said, it's going to work. They're right on time. Creatures of habit, that's their route. So when I went in there, I went into the back door of the truck, opened up the door. They had their cap on, a gray shirt. Opened up the door, reached in, grabbed 3 bags, pulled them out. I didn't lock the door. I knew what I was doing. I didn't lock the door because I know when they're going to be missing these bags, they could say they fell out the back door. This wasn't an inside job. So I just pushed the door closed, threw the bags in the car, work car, and took off. Then I cut them open. I wound up with 90,000 by myself. 90,000. I haven't kicked no money in. Hard bags to open up. They're like they're real hard bags to open. I cut them open. And the next day it was on the news that some bags fell out of a truck. And they would appreciate it. There was a reward if they were returned. I started laughing. I got away with it.
That's great.
So all the guys were saying, man, I wish I would have seen that money laying on the street. I was laughing. So I never talked about that.
So then at some point you got into being a hitman.
What?
At some point you got into being a hitman for the Chicago.
Yeah.
Can you tell, like Sherman Lisner was one of the people you...
Sherman, Jerry, I call him Jerry Lisner. Sherman, that's what his name is. I call him Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
He was I don't know, what would you call a guy that would con your parents out of their life savings? He'd defraud them out of their life savings. And then they, it's sad. So I didn't know it at the time, so this guy introduced him to me. And I talked to him, and I didn't like him. He was a weasel type guy, But every time I bump into the guy, he'd always cozy up to me, get the fuck out of here. So I'd have a drink, and he'd have his old lady with him, Big, tall, blonde with a boob job. She was beastly. So that was as far as my friendship went with this guy. Now, he gets busted, I guess in Washington, D.C. Because if you go in front of a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C., that means that you probably did whatever you did wrong in Washington, D.C. I don't know he's going in front of a grand jury. I have no idea. One day, Tony calls me and he said, Joe Pignatelli wants to talk to us. He's got some important news to tell us. I said, what is it? He said, I couldn't talk to him on the phone. So we meet Joe Pignatelli. Now, Joe Pignatelli owned a restaurant in Las Vegas. This is where this took place. It was called Villa d'Este. The legitimate owner of the place was Sam Giancana, Mo. He owned the property and the business, and he did it. He put it up because he likes his own restaurants. That's his way he was. And Joe Pignatelli was his driver, so he put everything under Joe's name. Everything was under Joe's name. So Tony and I go and meet Joe Pig, and I call him Joe Pig. So he says, he's telling us, he says, there was a lawyer in here that has a client, and he said that his client was testifying on 2 guys in Nevada about a money laundering scheme, something like that. And he said, I asked him who the guys were, and he said Frank Collada and Tony Splaccio. And the lawyer says, do you know him? And Joe said, no, I never heard of him. Joe said, I never heard of him. So he continued talking to the guy, and then the guy left, the lawyer left. So Joe said, he's testifying on you guys in front of a federal grand jury. So as we're walking out of the place, he don't say it in front of Joe Pig. So we walk out of the place, he said, you gotta kill him now. You gotta whack him. I said, I realize that. I said, but I can tell you this much, Tom. They're gonna call me in front of the grand jury before I get the opportunity. Sure as shit, the next day, knocking on my door, I open up the door. I knew they were there. I seen them through the peephole. They didn't hide it, you know. They put their thumb up, but I could know that. So I opened up the door and they slapped me in the chest with a subpoena to appear in front of a federal grand jury in D.C. So I said, okay. So now I got to get a lawyer out there in Virginia. So I go to the yellow pages and I get a lawyer. Like, I don't know no lawyers in Virginia. And I got lucky and got a good lawyer. He didn't charge me a lot of money. So I flew out there to meet the lawyer to go to court. First time I met him. They got some kind of an L or a train system that brings you right there. We go there and I go in a room, the strike force attorney's in there with a couple FBI agents. They're asking me questions, I'm lying. Lying like a son of a gun. They're satisfied with my lies. They put me up in front of the grand jury. I give them testimony, I lie. I created stories like you can't imagine. I don't know where it came from, but I created them. I get off the stand, they were all pleased. Now, maybe they were pleased because they knew different, they were going to indict me for lying. I don't know. So when I get back to Vegas, Tony said, what'd you say? I said, I lied. What am I going to say? I said, but you're the target. They ain't calling you, they call everybody else. They don't call the target, you know, unless they want to put you in jail for 18 months because they know you're going to take the fifth. He said, well, now you got to hurry up and kill this motherfucker, he said. So a week goes by, he said, what's the matter? Why is it taking so long? You want me to do it? I said, you ain't going to do nothing no more, Tony. You know that. You're talking shit. I said, give me a little time. I said, I got to get a guy. He said, don't bring Newman with you. Whatever you do, don't bring Newman. I said, why? He said, because if they got birds, dogs, cats, and kids, he'll kill everything in the house. I said, I don't want to bring him. So I did mention it to Newman. He said, I wish his wife's there, meaning Jerry's wife. I'll kill her. I said, you can't go. Tony don't want you there. So I got somebody else. And I killed the guy. I killed him in his home.
How'd that go down? I mean,
how'd that go down?
How do you actually kill somebody?
Well, the guy came to Vegas, the other hitman. And when he got to my place, I called I called Jerry Listener's house. And I said, we became friends now. All right, we weren't getting along up to that. I said, how you doing, Jerry? I said, I got somebody you could rip off. We could make some money on. Oh, come on over. I said, I ain't going over there unless you got if your wife's there and kids, I ain't coming over there. Oh, no, they're not here. Nobody's there. You sure? Yeah, positive. Just happened to be at a work car. A car that you use to do crimes in, fictitiously owned, you know, registered, I should say. Grabbed the car, put the guns in there. I can't wear gloves, one gun, police radio. I can't have a walkie-talkie, I can't have none of that. So the guy that's gonna be in the car listens to the police radio, and he's got all this stuff that we're gonna get rid of after I kill this listener guy. So I go up to the door, bing, bing, I knock a couple of times, I ring the bell and I try to wipe it with my palm because I can't wear gloves. Because you'd notice it right away. He opens up the door, I look to the right, I look up the stairway. I'm listening, he says, your wife ain't home with kids. I said, no. You sure? Yeah. Everything's cool? Yeah, because I don't want to talk. He turns around, boom, 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 I shoot him in the back of the head. 5 times, real quick, bing, 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 bing. He runs. He looks at me. Why are you doing that? I'm thinking this guy should be dead. I was told to kill this guy with a 22 and use F-loads from Tony. I did that. It was like shooting him in the head with a cap gun, pellet gun. He runs, I chase him. When he gets into the kitchen dining area, the garage door's there, leading into the garage. He hits the garage door button to open up the overhead door. I hear the door going up and I hit it and it stops the door. Stopped the door maybe 2 feet, 3 feet. Meanwhile, he's down on the ground in between my legs. He's bleeding all over the place. And I got to finish him. There's no way I could leave him now. Right. There's just no way you could leave it. You're this far into it. So I ripped the cord out of the water machine. I tie it around his neck and I pull it and it breaks. I said, this guy is not supposed to die. So now I reach over and I grab, they had nice in them pegs, boards, they put them in the kitchen. I reached over and I grabbed it. He's still there. And just as I'm ready to come down with the knife, that little garage door opens. And I gotta, whoever it is, I gotta kill. I don't want it, but I got it. What am I gonna do? So I go like this, it's the guy, my partner.
Oh.
I go, Jesus. Scared the shit out of me. He said, I counted the shots. He says, you didn't come out. And I was worried. I said, you hear anything on the radio? No, nothing. He says, none of the neighbors called. He said, I brought extra bullets in. What the fuck? I couldn't believe it. So I take him, I take the shells up, put them in my pocket, reload it. He puts the pillow bag of his head, I put one in front, and I emptied the bullet out in the frontal part of his face. The bullet's out. Then I said, come on, we'll throw him in the pool. Why? He said, isn't that a little theatrical? I says, I got blood all over me. I says, I got from the gun, the powder. Come on, you too. Oh, come on. Drag him, throw him in the pool. We go into the pool up to our necks. The guy goes in the water and he sinks. We leave. That was it. Got rid of all the stuff. Came back to my place in our underwear. We rode back in our underwears. And then I took a shower. My hands to get that shit off from the pool, and in case there was any remnants of that gunpowder,
Yeah.
So did he later. And then I drove him to the airport and he left.
So when you get an order when you get an order from like Tony or from somebody like that to hit somebody,
Got to get an okay.
is it something you get paid for, or is it just something you just do?
Whenever you're ordered to do something, when I hear people say you get paid for it, that's bullshit. There's no paycheck for killing anybody. If they order you to kill somebody, whoever orders you, that's the boss, you know that they got the okay to tell you to do it. Mm-hmm. It goes in front of 2 or 3 bosses, and they decide if it's right for you to kill whoever you're going to kill. Yeah. Or they come up to you and tell you, listen, you got to take care of so-and-so. You don't question it. You do it. If you don't, then you become the victim. Mm-hmm. Because they're not going to come to you if they didn't think you were going to say no. Yeah. So that's the process.
Have you ever
when I killed Listener, I did ask Tony, did you get okay on this? He said yes, but he didn't. He lied. Wow. I found that out later.
Did you ever get convicted of murder?
Convicted of it?
Yeah.
I got immunity from prosecution.
Which is why you're able to talk here.
Yeah, I got immunity from prosecution as long as I cooperated with the government.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So I could freely talk about stuff like that, or else I wouldn't talk about it. I'm not bragging about it, first of all. You don't brag about stuff like that. It's not nice, it's not right. But it's no different. Some people say, well, how could you compare it to? It's no different than being in the military and killing a lot of people that you don't even see.
You've been given an order.
That's it, Yeah.
Do you have like memories of these murders, or
No.
are there psychological repercussions later on, or do you stay up at night or anything like that?
I do not have any repercussions in thought or memory about the people I killed, because I'd be in a straitjacket. Yeah. This is something you wash out of your mind. You have to do it, and that's something I've done. And if you can, that's the way it is. You have to get it out of your head.
I think it takes a certain personality type, certain series of traits to be able to.
Well, you have to start with a little strong character, strong inside, a willpower to forget, to try and forget I done it. The only time I remember this nonsense is when I'm interviewed about it. Otherwise, I never talk about it, never brag about it.
Never comes up.
It's nothing to brag about.
So Tony Spilatro continues to move up, right?
Oh yeah, he was the boss out there.
Yeah.
In Vegas, Tony was the boss. I was his underboss.
Was he the boss in Chicago when he left, or?
He was the boss in Chicago, but if he went back there to be a boss, you got to remember something. If you're not in the state that you're a boss in, and you're in another state, you don't control that state anymore. They have another guy that'll take it over. If you come back, you may jump into that position again, whatever territory you had. It's so he couldn't be a boss in Chicago. Excuse me.
Yeah. So how did your relationship with Tony change over the years? Because you started off.
Tony was getting more paranoid and more paranoid every day.
Right.
And I used to see it as very obvious. And but yet he always was in the limelight. He managed to keep himself in the limelight. He'd always come to my restaurant. Cost me a lot of heat coming to the restaurant all the time. He caused me all this heat trying to do a legitimate business. So he started getting more paranoid, more paranoid. And I told him, you gotta slow down, Tony. What do you mean? I said, I could see it's getting a hold of you, all this news and all of that. He said, well, they're lying. I said, of course they're lying on a lot of things. I said, ignore it. He said, you know that fucking RICO law. They can put you in jail for that RICO law. They can lie all they want. They put you in the newspaper. They show association, put you in jail for 20 years. Which he had a point, you know. So I start noticing it more and more. Tony was falling into more involved with his family, his wife and his kid. He was becoming a guy that I felt didn't want to go to jail, wanted to become a family man, stay at home. He's not in Chicago now. Now his next step, I thought, would be leave Vegas, let somebody else come out here and be the boss, or try to leave Vegas. He wanted to start a new life. I know. Because he used to say, I'm fed up with this shit. I'm fed up with it. And he was happy to, you know, have a son and a wife. So I always got strange feelings out of that when he was doing that. And I don't know what his plans were. I'll leave that up to your audience to figure it out. But I could see he was getting a little tired of fighting the police, the newspapers. And he wasn't going to run anywhere. He wasn't going to run away. In other words, disappear. If he had a case going, he wouldn't do that because of his family. He loved them too much. He wasn't going to leave. Because if you leave and go to Hong Kong or wherever you run to, they'll get you. Eventually, they'll get you. The feds will get you. Somewhere along the line, don't forget, they got millions and millions of dollars they get from the taxpayers, I should say, to go after you. So he knew that. So Tony would never run, nor would his brother. That's the way it is.
And then eventually something came up where he put a hit out on you, right?
He did what?
There was a hit. You were in prison. But you heard a recording?
Yeah. I was pulled into an interview room. I was found guilty on a case. And I was pulled into an interview room by a couple agents. And they told me that there was a contract on my life. And I told them, get the fuck out of here. Because I know the game. They play this game. They all play the game. Whether they're agents or regular locals. They have to do it. He said, my responsibility as a federal agent to inform you that there's a contract out in your life. I said, get the fuck out of here. And I told the cops, send me down to my cell. So they bring me down, and I said, you're not bringing me to, they have me in a dormitory. You're putting me in a cell, he said, because there's a contract out in your life. What the fuck? Then the radio comes on, bring him back upstairs. I go back upstairs. They got this recorded. They want me to hear it. Listen to some message. Listen to some wiretaps. So I listen to the wiretap. And I hear one guy on the other end and he's saying, what's going on out there in Vegas? And Tony said, I can't control this guy. He's like a loose cannon, meaning me. So the agent says, what did you hear? Who did you talk? Who are you here listening to? He said, I'm not ready to talk to you about that. So he stands there silent. And then the guy says, well, who's whacking people? And all them robberies. He says, that other guy, I'm telling you, I can't control him, he says. He's got a tough crew of guys that are with him. He says, every day I think they might take it over, take me out, you know. And the guy said, well, then you know what you got to do. He's going to make bond, isn't he? He said, yeah, he'll get an appeal bond. He says, then you got to clean your dirty laundry. Well, fuck. Let me tell you something. I've had 39 friends in my lifetime, maybe more, that were killed by the outfit. I didn't want to be 39 or 40. So I went back down to the cell. I thought about it overnight. Got up in the morning and I told him, get a hold of that agent that was there. I want to, just get a hold of that agent. I want to talk to him.
But this is, the recording was Tony.
Yeah, it was Tony.
And this is somebody that you've been tight with for how long?
We were 12 years old. I don't know how many years. I was 48 or 49 when I rolled, I think.
But you were very close.
Oh, when I heard them say that, my eyes started watering, you know, because it broke my heart. I don't give a shit about jail. Jail is just an inconvenience. Guys like us make it in there. It's not someplace you look to go to or relish the thought, oh, I can't wait to go. If you could avoid it, of course you're going to avoid it. But to hear this guy talk about wanting to kill me, or having to kill me, and taking all the weight off himself and pushing it on me, it bothered me, it troubled me deeply. But it took a lot for me to become a witness. I wasn't raised this way. It took me 25 years to get over the fact that I was a witness. 25 years I hated myself. 25, I am bullshitting nobody. But then I became, actually I'm a religious guy now, I really am. And all these things are behind me. And I did the right thing. He was dishonorable to me. I would have probably got killed in jail or on the streets.
Right, either way.
I made the right choice. It was difficult for me to also become a witness because of my mother and my family, my sister and brother. So, you know, I don't want them to be disgraced. They'd have to live with that because they're still living in that area, or were living in that area. But time goes by and time heals all.
Yeah.
It does. 25 years later, I could go back to that city. I was back there recently. I could go anywhere I want. Nobody bothers me. They all understand. They understand why I roll. They didn't like it at first. They were very mad. They said, why would he do that? Meaning me. Somebody had to fuck him around pretty good for him to do that, because he's a stand-up guy. They're referring to me. What the fuck did they refer to Tony as the little guy? What did that little guy do to him? They were starting to dislike Tony a lot because of his brother, the two of them. And that's it.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate fuck around, isn't it?
I can't hear you.
That's the ultimate fuck around, isn't it? Somebody's fucking, they're trying to kill you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, come on. You know, I mean, like I said, 39, 40 guys I know were whacked, thinking, well, I'm going to be all right. They ain't going to do it to me. They like me too much. Your best friend brings you to the gallows. Boom. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay?
So Tony, what happened to him eventually? What happened to Tony eventually?
Tony was, eventually, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Eventually, Tony was murdered. And I got a call. I was in the witness protection program. An FBI guy, his name was Dennis Arnley. He said to me, Tony and his brother Michael disappeared. He said, where did they run to? I said, they didn't run anywhere. He said, how do you know that? I said, I know Tony. They're dead. He said, I'm telling you they're dead. Tony's not going to run. I'm on the telephone. I'm in Mobile, Alabama. His agent's calling me from Vegas.
That's where your witness protection.
Well, that was one of the first spots I went.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I'll get back to you in a couple of days. A couple of days later, he didn't have to get back to me. It was on the news. that they discovered the bodies in the cornfield. And he said, where do you suppose they were killed? They have dust in their lungs. I said, they weren't killed in no cornfield. I said, because they got dust in their lungs. Probably when they threw them in there, that dirt flew up in their mouth. I said, they were killed in either Cicero or Bensonville. Eventually you'll find out. And I was right. They were killed in Bensonville in a basement. He said, well, they were beaten to death. That tells you right then and there. It was in a residential area. I'm telling his agent this. It was residential. They can't use a gun. They could use knives. They could choke them. They could kick them. They could beat them. He said, well, there was no physical marks other than bruises all over their faces and body. Then they beat them with the metal bats, or they kicked them, or they punched them, whatever. But they beat them to death.
So when it hit his...
I didn't like the idea of that, but I didn't like, it bothered me. It really bothered me that they were killed like that fashion. But I didn't understand why. Because they couldn't shoot them.
So when a hit is put out on somebody, is it typically guns, knives, baseball bats?
Whatever you choose to do. Whatever it calls for in that area.
Whatever works.
Yeah, if you choose you could use a 45, use a 45, use a 22, use a 22. You got to use a knife, you got to use a knife. Whatever the situation calls for.
Yeah.
Or you got to use dynamite, use dynamite. Rig a car up, whatever it is.
So what do you think I'm trying to get a handle on the psychological traits of somebody that has a life of crime as opposed to, like, say, just a regular law-abiding citizen.
Making him up. Yeah. You know, I respect people that, and I'm not bullshitting any of yous right now. I respect a man that works from 9 to 5. They make good money. They save money. This is the life they choose to live, and God bless them for it. I choose the life I wanted to live is because I found it glamorous. I did find out that money don't last long, because it's not easy come either, but I'm going to use that term. Easy come, easy go. You got to remember, we're up 24 hours a day, thinking and robbing. Business guy, or guy that works for a living, he's sleeping 8-9 hours. We're out there spending money. So most guys that were in the outfit died broke, died busted. I'm not even going to go into that list. There was only a few that had a lot of money at the end. Only a few. You spend money, you got too many hours. I respect the working class people a lot. Now, some of these white collar crimes, another story. Biggest crooks in the world. Let's go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into politics, but they're all criminals. Republicans and Democrats alike. Big liars. All of them. We were saints compared to these people. The only thing is they didn't kill people. But they killed them another way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Frank.
I thought I'd throw that in.
Frank, thank you very much for talking to me.
No problem.
Your stories are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right, so Michael Francesi.
Sid, you got it.
Excellent. Let me do a brief intro, and you'll maybe help me with some of the details. So the best story that sums up everything is back in the 80s, Fortune magazine did a cover story on the 50 biggest, most money-making mob bosses.
Right.
And you were, I think, number 18 at the time.
Correct.
And your father was also a mobster.
He was.
And you had an illustrious career in the mob. And I guess, where should we start? With your childhood, I guess?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, obviously I grew up under that influence. My dad was a very prominent figure during the 1960s especially. He's kind of like the John Gotti of his day.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was tremendous amount of publicity, a lot of media attention, major target of law enforcement. It was almost like, I used to think, why did they pick him out of all the people that were around at that point in time? But he really was the kind of media star at that point in time.
apparently there's stories of him and Marilyn Monroe running around together.
Yeah, well, he revealed that to me a little bit later on after my mother passed away. Because I asked him, I said, Dad, why you? Why did they, have this concentration, fascination with you at the time? Long story short, he said he was dating Marilyn Monroe, and Bobby Kennedy found out about it. And from that point on, Kennedy made my father his target and ordered Hoover to go after him. And, it makes sense. I'll be honest, my dad sometimes, he embellishes things a little bit, but that story makes sense.
And he knows how to keep a secret very well, too.
He does, yes.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up with a father like your dad, how was your childhood different than most people's?
Well, it's a lot different. I mean, back then, law enforcement tactics against organized crime were very different than today. I mean, today everything is very covert, undercover informants, high-tech surveillance. Back then, when a guy was under investigation, they wanted you to know about it. And my dad was under investigation, maybe 7 or 8 different agencies, FBI, IRS, Queen Detective, Brooklyn DA, they were all there. And they would have a car parked around my house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because he was under constant surveillance. So, I was one of 7 kids, and every time we went anywhere, we had a parade of law enforcement vehicles following us. It was just the way it was. And that was for several years. And so, look, my dad was my hero. He was a great father. I loved him. So I grew up actually hating law enforcement. And I had many little scuffles with them as a kid, and so that was kind of the environment I was in.
And then your plans as you grew up were not to follow in your dad's footsteps. You were actually pre-med, I think.
Yeah, I was a pre-med student. I was an athlete. I had no desire to become a member of his life, mainly because my dad didn't discuss it with me. He didn't talk to me about it. He didn't encourage me, one thing I really respected about him, many things obviously, but he never brought what was going on in the outside world into our house. In the house, we were a family. So he never talked about it. He didn't acknowledge who he was, none of that. So to me, I'm playing ball. If you said to me as a kid, who would I like to emulate, what would I like to be? I wanted to play center field for the New York Yankees. Mickey Mantle was kind of my guy. But so no, I didn't aspire to be in that life. But I was going to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to go to medical school, so that's what I was pursuing. And until he got in some trouble and things changed for me.
What changed your direction?
Well, my dad was indicted several times in the early 60s, 3 serious charges in the state of New York, and he went to trial, beat them all, But then he was indicted in federal court for masterminding a nationwide string of bank robberies. Convicted, sentenced to 50 years in prison. 50. Which was kind of a death sentence for him at that point. He was 50 years old when he went in, so I figured he'd never come out of prison alive. So, at that time, Joe Colombo, he kind of took me under his wing. He had just started the Italian-American Civil Rights League.
And Joe Colombo was the head of the
Joe Colombo was the boss of our family,
one of the big 5 families in New York.
Correct. And we were close. He kind of took me under his wing. My dad and him obviously were close. My dad was his underboss. So, I got highly influenced by a lot of my dad's friends saying, Mike, what are you doing going to school? If you don't help your dad out, he's going to die in prison. So, I lost interest in school. Then I was picketing the FBI every day with Colombo in that league. So I was meeting a lot of guys. I was getting, all encouraged that maybe the league would help my dad. So it was kind of a direction change for me, and I went to see him in Leavenworth.
Okay, here we are, Mobster Central. So I'm going to get out of this trade just because I have to get going. I got other things to do. We're kind of back at break even. We were down for a while. So I am going to exit this. See if I can get out from break even. Maybe somebody can get out and make a little bit of money. Like a couple of bean burritos. A couple of bean burritos worth. Let's see. Okay, so I'm asking 80. It's saying that I could get with a little bit of profit here. I don't want to sit around and wait too long for this either. I might get it. I'm going to move to 85. Maybe just get out for a scratch. All right, market makers, I'll cave in. Jerks. Oh, it's moving against me now. I'm going to give it just a minute. Go sleep, maybe 95. It's a chase. It's a wild goose chase. All right. Oh, all right. Did you see that jump? It jumped up to 7. Okay, for $1. So on that one, I think it looks like, I guess we lost $10 on that one. So what did I get? Did I get $1? Yeah. So we lost $10 on that. So it was kind of a Three Stooges day on my part. I screwed up the first one. But at least we're $50 better than we were off the first trade. So, all right. So let's go to the Excel sheet. And this was 111.24. This was the triple dip. Triple dip. This one we lost $10. And the risk on this was 410. This trade was a bit longer. So that was 80 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. So 80 minutes. And let's say the triple dip. So I'm going to recalculate these just to get a better idea right where we're at. And I'm going to come down further. I'm going to come down to about there. So we've made 11.25. We've lost 640. The total of those two are 485. I'm going to make these numbers bigger. And there we are. Let's see. I'm going to do a real quick tally of where we're at. So we have a total of made of $485. 485 divided by 420, our most ever at risk. So right now we're at 115%. So this week has been a bit rocky, and today was kind of a screw up on my end. I need to find those two girls to punish me, beat me, whip me into shape. I kind of let that one get out of hand. Bad Boomer Dan, bad. All right, so that's it. I don't think I'm going to get another trading because I have to go run errands and do things now for the rest of the day. So we'll come back tomorrow and see if we can get back on the stick and turn this thing around. If you'd like to follow me on this trade or any of the trades that I'm doing, just make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel below. Just click that subscribe button and also go over to my website and join me there. I'll leave a link to my website in the description below. You can go over there, sign up for my free email newsletter. And when you do that, you'll get a welcome email from me. Just reply back to that welcome email, say what's up, and I'll respond to you and we'll go from there. All right, that's it for this one. See you next time.